it's over. Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does. Oh my goodness. Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
Hello folks, and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing podcast, brought to you by the Brawl Network and powered by 92 Degrees. I'm Kieran McCourt, and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ram McLaughlin. I'd just like this week to introduce our new sponsor, 92 Degrees. They're a coffee shop that started in Liverpool, and they're now expanding into various other cities like Manchester and Leeds. So if you're in any of them cities, please don't be going to Starbucks or anywhere else. Get yourself to 92 Degrees. They've been absolutely amazing coming on board with us, and we couldn't do it without you, Saz. So thanks a million.
Thanks for that, McCourt. Well, folks, this week we're joined with probably the best beard to ever enter the boxing ring. So please welcome the main man himself, Jono King Kong Carroll. Jono, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good, my brother. Thank you for that intro. It was beautiful. I couldn't have done it better myself.
Yeah, Scott Quigg had no chance trying to knock you out with that beard. He was absolutely struggling.
No, yeah. That's the reason I grab it, so you can just punch straight through it. I'll even go extra long, fight me.
Oh, I thought I had the best beard in Ireland, but nah, not anymore. Struggling now compared to you.
Jono, where are you at the minute?
I'm in sunny Spain, my friend.
Oh,
Spain, yeah.
You bastard.
So who knows,
in the
mate,
lights and rain.
we have the best beard in Ireland. I'm not there.
True. Joe, your real name's Jonathan Beresford, isn't it? How'd Jono Carroll come about?
So my mother's name is Beresford, and my mom and dad wasn't married because my dad didn't put his name on my fucking birth cert for whatever reason. Whatever reason that was, I don't know. I think he was too afraid to go to the police station for whatever reason. I don't know. But basically, Carroll is my dad's name, yeah. So my dad was obviously into the boxing and stuff like that. So when my dad brought me to the boxing club, he just said, everyone calls me boy Jono. It's not really Jonathan. Everyone just says Jono. So when he introduced me to the boxing trainer, it was Jono Carroll. I just using his name, obviously, you know. And mate, it stuck. But I tell you, it's brought me a lot of crazy rubbish. Like when they used to book me flights for the amateur Irish team and all, they used to always book it under Jonathan Carroll. Like it was always a problem. Like for everything, it's a fucking problem. I should just go by Beresford, to be honest, but it is what it is.
Jono Carroll's well harder as well. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Beresford, I thought it was an English name as well. When I was growing up, I thought it was an English name, and Carroll was like real Irish, you know, but the older I got, the more I found out it's actually Scottish. Beresford is, so I was like, that's a right name, actually.
Jono, what was it like growing up in Dublin? You touched on it there. Your dad brought you to the boxing club. That was Ballymun, wasn't it?
No, so my dad's originally from Ballymun. He trains out in Ballymun Boxing Club. He's a coach out there now. But we moved out to the sticks. We moved out to Dunshaughlin. We're from Finglas originally, which is only up the road from Ballymun, you know. It's only 10-15 minutes in the car from Ballymun. But we then moved out to Dunshaughlin, which is a little Ross Cross where we lived, where it's like kind of now the Hill of Tara and stuff like that. It's kind of all up there. So we moved out there, and he actually brought me to Navan Boxing Club. My dad wasn't a trainer at the time, and brought me to Navan Boxing Club. So I actually boxed out in Navan for a long time as an amateur. And but they were only training twice a week. So my dad was like filling in the blanks and was training me the other 3 days a fucking week. So he was always kind of not my main trainer, but he trained me as a kid, and then trained me obviously while I was in that boxing club. And while we were just in the gym one day in the chocolate, the coach, like the fella who owned the gym, was only a community centre actually. He's just seen us on the video recording in the gym doing pads, and he says, lads, would you be interested in opening a boxing club? He says, because we'd love a boxing club around here. We haven't had one yet, and blah, 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 blah. So long story short, he opened a boxing club, and it was called St. Shocknell's Boxing Club. But then I bailed and done a burnout to Australia. So I left him doing the gym by himself. And he had to stop because he actually caught pneumonia, he did. Because it was a community centre, they had to put the bags in and out of the big containers. Every time the gym was finished, he had to put the bags outside. So he actually caught pneumonia from obviously being sweating, and then after the gym, he had to put all the bags out. So he just packed it in, and then he started training with Ballymun Boxing Club, because my uncle actually was the shareholder or something. I don't know what, the one that takes the money for the Ballymun Boxing Club.
You must tan well, Spain and Australia.
Yeah, I do all right, mate. I do all
If you
right.
shave that beard, I'd be absolute, they'd be desperate, like, wouldn't it? But all the time, and then I'd like white blood.
Stop. I was only in my doctor's earlier on, and she thinks that there's some sort of Spanish in me. She was like, that beard and all, there must be a bit of Spanish warrior in you. I was like, who knows?
Jono Enrique Iglesias, who Carl.
Jono, you
Stop.
said there about as a grown up in Finglas, yeah.
Yeah,
So
fingers. Yeah.
like none of us were off in Belfast, obviously, and I've just moved to Dublin the last few months. Everyone thinks Belfast is like the maddest city in Ireland. Dublin fucking blows it out of the water. I've never seen a city with more headers in my life. Like, what was it like growing up in that environment?
Yeah, Dublin is mad, to be honest. Like, see, when Conor McGregor was all talking that, like, you had to fight where we came from. He wasn't really lying. Like, you did have to fight a lot. Like, I had loads of travellers and all in my school, and they were all boxing star kids. My first boxing match, well, bare knuckle fucking fight was outside school with a traveller. Like, we just battered each other with our hands. You know what I mean? Like, we were fighting a lot as kids, and just I don't even know why. Just because it just is what it is. Like, it just was what it was. It was mad times growing up in Dublin. Like, we were like bleeding cowboy and Indians. We were jockeying around on horses, bareback and shit, and on like motorbikes and all. Like, I got my first motorbike at about 4, and that's not even an exaggeration. I was about 4, and I swear on my life, like, and I know that for a fact because he asked me that day at Christmas. I was like, that way was when I got my first bike, because I know I got it around Christmas time. And he texted me and was like, do you know what? And he backtraced and he says, mate, you were only 4 because this happened. So I'm sure I was only 4 when I got my first motorbike. And I remember the first day I drove, I couldn't even touch the pedals on the ground. I was driving it, but when I had to stop, I had to jump off and like run beside it to slow down. It was fucking mad, like, it was mad, mate.
How'd you steal it, Jono? When you were 4? How'd you steal it when you were 4 years old?
I don't know, mate, to be honest. It was fucking mad. Like, but saying that now, my little nephews are there. I remember he was 5 and my sister got him a motorbike because she obviously remembered when we were kids and we all had motorbikes, you know. So I don't know. It was just mad times, mate. It was crazy. And my dad always says, thinking back now, because he's a son that's only 6 now at the minute. And he says, like, thinking back, son, like, I'd never let Connor do that stuff what I was letting you do at the time. Like, it's mad, the shit that you were doing at such a young age. I was flying around bareback at like 6 and 7 on horses and all. It was mad. It was a crazy place, like,
Jono,
crazy place growing up.
Did people have respect for you? Like, obviously growing up in a tough area, the fact you could handle yourself in your box, did that help?
Like, not really, because like everyone fought anyway, you know what I mean? So it didn't matter whether you could box or not. Like, I'm quite small, you know, so I was always fighting bigger fellas, big people. And no one really ever looked at me for a fight. Like, so it was always good because I was small. I was able to just spark people and run. I was fast too. Just hit a move. But like, when I moved out to the sticks, like when I moved out to Chocolate and stuff, it definitely helped me then. I didn't have to fight half as much, because I remember one time a fella 2 classes above me. I moved out when I was in 3rd class. And I remember a fella like that was in 5th class was actually trying to steal me, like take me bleeding lunch money. I thought that shit only happened in movies, you know what I mean? Like, and this fella's like, give me a lunch money. I was like, what? He's like, give me a lunch money. I was like, are you serious? I laughed, like thinking he was joking. I was like, are you serious? And he said, yeah, give me your money. Oh, straight away, I didn't even hesitate. So I'm boom, and just started hitting him. I just went at it. I ended up battering him. I gave him a big old black eye and all. And he was like two years above me. So, from there on, I didn't really have to fight very much. I was always game when it came to like fighting. My uncle used to always say, like, and my dad as well used to be always, if you ever think something might kick off, make sure that you're the first one to land the punch.
Do you reckon if you stayed in Ireland, Jono, like that would have halted your career a bit, or did going to Australia sort of change your life?
No, so yeah, to be honest, when I only started boxing at 15, sorry. I was always boxing and I was always like fighting, obviously. But like I was always in the gym and stuff like that with my dad, like learning how to box because I was small. My granddad was a boxer as well, and they all done kind of martial arts and that sort of stuff, you know, self-defense classes. My granddad taught growing up in Finglas. So like he always done his little bit. So we were always around like fighters and I'm always kind of like, you know, that type of environment, you know. And then when I got my teenage years, man, I started going a little bit crazy off the walls, and I was a bit of a loose cannon, you know what I mean? Boxing gave me a bit of structure, which thank God I eventually found boxing. It gave me a bit of stability in those crazy turmoil years, but I had to go to Australia. If I hadn't went to Australia, God knows where I'd be today. And that's being genuine. I really don't know, because when I went to Australia, I was getting hit with I shouldn't even be going into this shit, but I was getting hit with 2 assault charges and a few other silly things, and they weren't even my fault. It was all provoked things. And
that's what they all say, Jono.
innocent till proven guilty. But I was just getting into trouble, you know what I mean? And I start obviously using the tools for the wrong reasons, you know, that kind of way. And it just wasn't a good environment. So I had to leave Ireland. I had to get out of there in order to be a man and grow up. And then I found myself, you know, I was surrounded by a lot of crazy people and a lot of bad kind of influences, you know what I mean? Looking back on it now, they weren't true friends. They were more or less some of them were, you know, but a lot of them were associates, and I don't really call them true friends. I was getting into all sorts of crazy shit with them, you know? And I had to leave. I definitely had to leave the country in order to find myself and figure out what I want to do with my life. And I knew once I got out of that environment, I always said to my nanny helped me a lot getting out of Ireland. And she said it to me, she says, listen, you just need to go. Just don't even worry about it. Just go. Whatever you need to do to get to Australia, just do it. And yeah, within 1 week, I just bailed to Australia. I just made up my mind I had to go. But once I got over there, I was walking on the road and I was like, whoa, this is how the other half live. You don't have to be a criminal to fucking make money. What the fuck? These people have boats in their gardens and all.
There's no 4-year-olds on motorbikes.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It was a crazy thing going over there. Just opened my eyes up to how the other half lived, and that I wanted that then, you know. So I wrote down a lot of goals and things that I wanted to accomplish, and the only thing that could have gave me that life was boxing. So here we are today, living in sunny Spain. You know what I mean, I always wanted to live in a sunny country. I never want to live in a cold country again. Fuck that.
When you got to Australia, you had a couple of amateur fights, and then you had your pro debut against Matthew Seaton, I think. What was that like? Because obviously it's a different experience. You probably didn't have any fans there. It was the other side of the world. What was that like?
So what happened was I broke my hand in an amateur bout, a charity deal in Ireland, and I stopped boxing nearly for 2 years. So I was only boxing for actually 3 years as an amateur. And then when I went to Australia, but don't get me wrong, I had 69 fights. I was fighting every bleeding second weekend or something. Ireland, we were always fighting, you know. It's crazy. I had a lot of amateur fights, even though I only fought for 3 years. But it was I had one amateur bout in Australia, and they robbed me blind. They dropped your man in the second round. Oh, bastards robbed me blind, they did. But I celebrated. I still stood on every corner, and I was putting up the trophy and all. They were all cheering me. I was like, yeah, you motherfuckers know who won that fight. But he was your man he was the son of the our high performance, you know. He was the son of the Australian high performance type of thing. So obviously that's where they robbed me. But I bashed him anyway. And then I was like, I'm done with this amateur game. This is half the reason why I left the amateurs as well, was just all these robberies. I just hated it, you know what I mean? I always wanted to be a professional. Amateur style never suited me. So when I fought in my first professional debut, oh, mate, I remember it was yesterday. I actually had to take time off KFC. I was working at KFC at the time. I had to take time off KFC because I smashed my hands up. My hands were in bits, they were. But no, it was a beautiful experience. I remember the next day, I had me fight, and then the very next morning I had to go into KFC. But I didn't go into 2 o'clock or something like that. That's the only fucking time you give me off. You only give me the morning off. Eating KFC, you could have given me a day off. But I remember sitting there having lunch with my missus, breakfast with the missus. I remember saying, wow, I'm actually a professional boxer now. How fucking crazy is this shit? And it was just mind blowing, you know. And even to think back on that little experience, to think where I am today is mental. You know what I mean?
You had another fight there in Australia after that, and then you went back to Ireland. What was the reason for going back?
So it was my sister's wedding, my sister Danielle's wedding. and it was like $5,000 to get a residency in Australia at the time, and about 4,000 it was for me and the missus to come home. And I didn't have it. I had about $6,000 saved at the time, and I was like one or the other kind of, So my sister, me and my sisters, all my sisters are very close. I have 4 sisters, but this particular sister was like, she wanted me to be part of the wedding. She was like, you better not miss this wedding, because I missed my eldest sister's wedding when I first went over. So she was like, you better not miss this wedding. So I was like, no, I won't. I'll be there. And if I gave her my word, I had to obviously be a man of my word. You know what I mean? So I flew home and done my thing. But when I was home, I was like, ah, shit, what do you do this for? You know what I mean? I was thinking, no, like, I'm back in this same area, like, everyone is still living with a man, dad. Like, we haven't got a job. It's cold as fuck. Like, what did we come home for? Like, it was mad. I remember actually when I got home, I was only speaking to the missus a few weeks ago, and I remember saying I was looking to like get a job like washing cars and all when I first come home from Australia. You know what I mean? So like, thank God I never got that job.
Beats KFC anyway. Like.
Oh, joke.
What was your reason then for staying?
For staying in Ireland?
Yeah.
So that the only 2 years in Australia, so I didn't have the visa to go back over. So it was.
Or were you tempted to get away somewhere else, or were you like, right, I'm gonna settle down here? And
I wanted to get away somewhere else, but I was quite broke, and I didn't really have any options at the time. I only had 2 fights, and then I went back to the gym. But boxing wasn't like, I never really chose to be a boxer. I've explained this a few times. I never really like boxing. I always enjoyed doing. I always loved fighting and stuff, but I never like. It didn't call for me, you know what I mean? It was always like one of them things. I just enjoyed fighting. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, boxing happened for me. I don't even know how to explain it and put it into words, but one thing after another just fucking kept appearing, you know what I mean? Like, the coach in Australia, when I went into spar, that's all. I just wanted to make friends because I was bored in Australia. And like, the fella that I was sparring was training for a fight. I just wanted to spar him, and then when I bashed him, that's when the coach was like, oh, would you not go pro? So that coach half turned me over. He wanted me to go professional. I didn't really care, So like, and then when I come home to Ireland, like, I got the phone call to, oh, will you fight Declan Geraghty? I was like, fuck it, yeah, all right. So I had to stop smoking weed that day. I was snapping. I was like, oh no, I had to stop. Like, I didn't even answer the phone call to my trainer because I was bleeding high as a kite when the phone rang. I was thinking, oh, I'm not answering that. Like, but so like, it was mad. Like, and then obviously I quit. Start training for that fight, and then from that bleeding fight, I got prize fighter. So like, it just rolled on. Prize fight was only like 3 or 4 weeks after that fight. So obviously I continued training, and then I won prize fighter, and then fucking I was like, whoa, we can actually do something here. This is crazy. This just keeps happening for me. It was mad. Like my career is not really like anyone else's career. It just kept rolling out. But I'm a funny believer in like, shit happens for a reason in life, and I genuinely believe it was my mother looking over me, just thinking, if you don't fucking sort this shit out, I'm gonna give you a load of options here. You better bleed and take them. You know what I mean? Like, I believe it was some higher power was looking over me saying, you're gonna be getting in trouble if you don't sort yourself out. So I think boxing is just such a blessing to me, because I've became such a better person, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything because of boxing. Like I find it shocking that people even look up to me. I'm like, shit, you wouldn't have looked up to me a few years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
So
just
you
mad,
built up a great rivalry, didn't you, with Declan Geraghty? And was that you were having obviously your family and friends there? Like, there was some difference, I'm sure, compared to Oz. What was that like? Being a professional boxer fighting at home in front of your family and your mates and all? Like, was that some buzz?
Yeah, it was fantastic, to be honest, because that's the real reason why I love boxing, is the hype and the adrenaline buzz of fighting, and obviously doing it in Australia was fantastic. But at the end of the day, like you said, I didn't really have many friends there. It was more my girlfriend that could just hear in the background, like, kill him! Oh, he's the loudest one in the crowd, but like, other than that, like, yeah, when I came home, it was just a different level. And I swear on my life, like, when I got the Declan Geraghty fight, I was thinking, fuck it, I'll probably never be on Sky again. That's the mindset I had at the time. I was thinking, it's an opportunity, we'll see where this takes us. Like, we're fighting on Sky, who knows? And I just took it, and I just grabbed the opportunity and seized it with both hands and went to war. And lucky enough, I won that fight, got on the prize fight, won that fight, and it just kept rolling out. But like what you were saying, because me and Declan are from Dublin, it was that rivalry. Like, it was deadly. It was a fantastic.
It was amazing.
I love all
the
that.
rematch we were at. Me and Ran were at the rematch on the undercard of the McConnell fight.
Deadly.
Fuck me, mate.
Yeah.
That ring entrance was sort of the best ring entrance I've ever seen. Just can't wait to be king from the Lion King. Unbelievable.
Do you know what? I'd never heard anything like that in my life, and I was like, that is fucking unbelievable.
It was brilliant. Funny enough, you just mentioned it. I was only listening to that song earlier with my daughter. So I swear on my life, I was only listening to that song.
I'm fucking raging you haven't come out to it since. What's going on, Jono?
I know. The only reason I even came out to that song was because my baby was so young at the time. I lived up the mountains because I was so bleeding broke. I couldn't afford a place close around Marbella. You know, I was broke as fuck. So I rented a place like way in the mountains. It was like 35 minutes drive. And because the baby was so young, like the missus used to come with me and we used to just play that bleeding. We had a Disney CD in the car. And it was just Disney songs just to keep the baby entertained while we were driving to and from the gym. And that song, it was just like, obviously it's a brilliant song, The Lion King and stuff, like, you know. But I love that song. I was thinking, the lyrics of that is amazing. I'm going to come out to that someday. And the missus was like, why don't you just come out to the next fight? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to, yeah. But I tell you, imagine coming out to that song and losing, you're bleeding.
Oh, mate. Do you know what? Especially in a fight like that, because you built that up, it was very much like Dublin Derby. It's all on the line.
Yeah.
You've got the Belfast crowd fucking watching two Dubs go at it. Do you know what I mean? Like, all the stakes were there.
Yeah,
like you had McGregor writing him a poem and stuff.
I know. It was mental because Deco inspired McGregor a lot. They came from the same amateur gym and stuff, and they're quite decent friends. Like, they spar each other a lot of times. So I didn't even know that McGregor wrote him that poem until after the fight, because I try not to get too involved too much into all that sort of stuff while I'm in like fight mode. I try like blank all the negativity and just focus on me, you know, coming up to the fight. But then after, I was obviously soaking in my glory and was looking at everything, hoping he was going to say a load of things. And I'm like, ooh, I'd hate that if that had been me that said that. Like, I was just enjoying the whole thing. So I just started watching certain interviews and that, and then that one popped up. And that's when I was like, ooh, I have to write something to McGregor now and slag him, because that was just funny shit.
Do you think your stock like rose massively after that fight? Because like everybody was buzzing over that, though, because the ring entrance I think was part of it as well, and then coming out and backing it up, like the crowd, McCourt, we were sitting there, like it was crazy after you won.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I remember even Mick Conlon saying to me, he was saying like my kid was bouncing around saying like, oh, I love the song that he came out there and all. I was just thinking, that's deadly. Like it's just brilliant. Just for kids at home, like just listening to our kids that was in the venue. It was just what a bleeding song come out. I'm gonna come out to that again, actually. That was a big
Brawl Boxing exclusive, Jono, right? Your next ring walk is that song.
Yeah, no problem.
It has to be, mate. Come on.
I will, no problem. I love that song. It's deadly.
Do you think whenever you fought that prize fighter fight, that kind of defined your career then? Because obviously you said that was a big moment. You got decent money for it. Did that kind of set you up then for what's become now?
Yes and no. Like it did and it didn't. Like it definitely set me up for the first year, maybe, let's say. But it didn't really, because I was supposed to get like a 3-fight deal for 3 years after that, like a contract thing. That contract never came. It was a shitty written bleeding contract, and it wasn't a real contract. And I don't know, I think I got 2 fights the first year, and then I got 1 fight the second year. So I was like, what's going on here? And then when I got the fight, it was always like last minute, like 3 weeks notice or 2 weeks notice. And it was like, I was just stepping in. That's why a lot of them fights was at lightweight. It was all last minute, you know. It was just like making weight and fighting. It wasn't at my right division. I wasn't getting noticed and whatever. So I was basically just there to be a card filler. So I wouldn't say that was a defining, like, a little step up for my career. But definitely it put me on the map, I suppose, that people kind of knew my name, especially in Ireland and that. Because it was all over the papers and stuff. It was all over a lot of things when I won that fight. Because I was such a big underdog. Like, I was 14-1 underdog to win that fight. Like, people, see the bookies where I'm from, like in that little Dunshaughlin place, the bookies they were sending people up to Navan because the bookies were at the paying out through their ass because everyone was money on me. And they were broke. the bookie since has shut down. Like, that's how
No
bad.
way.
That bookie's got robbed. That place got fleeced after I played won that fight. Like, I know people put serious dough on that fight. Like, they even said it in the commentary on Prize for either he is a big family or someone knows something about this kid that we don't. You know, because even though I only boxed 3 years as an amateur, like, I burst on the scene, like, because I was always fighting and I was always boxing as well. My first year, I only had 2 fights. And my second year, I won the All-Irelands. I won like 22 fights, no losses. Like, in your second year boxing at 16, you're a boy 2 or a U2. It's quite hard to win an All-Ireland full stop. Never mind winning it in your second year at that age. Just there's kids that bleeding 10 years of age winning All-Irelands all the way up, you know what I mean? And Deco was one of those type of kids that was just winning loads of All-Irelands, like, year in, year out. So for me, people knew that I kind of burst on the scene, but I come from good stock, you know what I mean? And I have a serious fighting heart. And I don't shy away from things, you know, that kind of way. So I think when people seen me go in that way, even though I only had 3 fights, they were saying, well, he's not going to shy away from this. Like, he won't be intimidated by the likes of Stephen Foster, who was, I think, European champion at the time, you know. Buckland was British champion at the time. Like, I beat decent names in that tournament, but I didn't shy away from them. I was like, fuck them, it's my time now. I don't bother them.
Like you were saying, like, you were taking, like, things a lot on late notice, and you were obviously you're meant to be taking the Spike Eubank Jr. fight on like a week's notice, but you ended up choosing the Fury Klitschko undercard in Dusseldorf. That's, like, obviously some serious flipping card to be on, like a massive stadium as well, and obviously overseas. You absolutely outclassed that Honduran. What was that like? That whole experience?
That experience, I actually, to be quite honest with you, I thought I was set up to get to catch a loss that night, because I was supposed to fight in the 6th round or 2 weeks later after that date. So then they rang me, oh, can you fight on this date? So 2 weeks earlier, they only gave me a week and a half before that. So I, like, technically only knew like a week or 2 weeks maybe before that, you know? So I was only really, like, in camp, say, 2 weeks. And then I was fighting at lightweight. Your man, I think it was my 7th fight or something like that. So you have to obviously take out, if you look at it, the way I always look at my boxing records, like, my 2 fights in Australia was like 2 fights in 2 years. Like, I was smoking weed the whole 2 years, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't really class them as, like, even fights. And then I come home, had the prize fighter. I had Deco fight, which only lasted 3 rounds, then he got disqualified, or 4 rounds, then he got disqualified. And then I had prize fighter, which was 3 3-minute rounds. So, like, technically, that's 6 fights. I wiped them 6 fights as amateur bouts, because they're all basically 3 rounds. That's the way my mindset is. So, like, them, whatever, 6 fights. I don't class them as real professional fights, to be quite honest with you. So I think it was like my 3rd fight or something. I had like a 6 rounder, and then I think it was, I had 1 or 2 more fights, and I was into that one. So I was only training for a 6 rounder. I never done a 6 rounder before at this. No, I done 1 6 rounder, sorry, at this stage. So then he said, can you do an 8 rounder 2 weeks earlier? And I was like, whoo, Jesus Christ, all right, fuck it, let's do it. So I was thinking, do it, you know what I mean? Bite them and bleeding like 16 fights or something. I was like my 7th fight, thinking, here, I'm getting set up in this. This is a bleeding setup I've ever seen one. And then I rocked up. The fellow he didn't weigh in. He was like, oh, he's on a flight. He didn't weigh in. I'd never seen his weigh in, right? Number 1, right? Number 2, all of a sudden, I didn't see his weigh in. And then he comes to me about 2 hours after weighing, oh, he's here now, blah, 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 blah. Huey Fury is pulling out. We need you to do a 10 rounder for the TV slot. I was like, what? Fuck off. I was like, you better make this worth my world money-wise, you know, because, like, this is a setup if I ever seen one. So I was
you're lucky Klitschko didn't get injured. You would be fucking.
Fuck, I'm right. At that stage, when they threw me into anyone, like, I was shocked. I was like, it was mad. Like, I was just thinking, I'm getting set up here. This fella's more knockouts than I have fights. You know what I mean? I was like, how much you pay me? I don't know what they paid me. I think it was like $7,000, something ridiculous it was, like that. $6,000 or $7,000. I was thinking, fuck it, $7,000 I haven't got now. Let's just do it. So I just done it. And obviously I breezed through that, but, like, I tell you, I was learning on the spot that night. I never even sparred 8 rounds before, previous to that. I only ever sparred 6 rounds. So, like, for me to be going in there and do a 10 rounder, I don't even know how I done that.
It's either that or that 2 o'clock shift at KFC.
Oh, mate. It's weird to God. It was mad. It was like, my hands were killing me as well. I never experienced that like it. how sore your hands get after like fucking 6 rounds. You're like, ooh, these knuckles are starting to become tender and your head is really hard. That fella didn't stop coming. I'll give him that all night. I pinked the little head off him all night long. And he just wasn't budging, man.
Jono, in terms of you and obviously some of these big profile fights, no bigger than Tevin Farmer in America. What was that like?
Oh, mate, that was deadly that night. That was what boxing is made of. You know what I mean? Like that for them type of nights, that's why I actually really loved the sport, because it was just one of them things. Like, I never even visited America on holidays before. Never mind bleeding, getting there and fighting. You know what I mean? So it was just, mate, the fact that I was in his backyard, I was doing the hard way, going to the champion backyard, and all, it just made it all that bit more exciting. You know what I mean? It was beautiful. I was only 26 as well, and like what I was saying earlier, I don't class them 6 fights as real fights, and I went into that with like 16 fights. So if you take 6 fights away from that, I only really had like 10 fights going into that world title. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I look at that and view that whole thing. I wasn't experienced enough to do it, but like that, I wasn't experienced enough to win prize fighter, and I fucked them up too. So
there was a bit of animosity between you and
Tevin,
wasn't there? Like, you two didn't really get on at the start, and then now you're good friends with him, aren't you?
Yeah, it was just, you know what it was? It was just, I want what he had, and he didn't want to give it to me, you know what I mean? I was like, well, don't give it to me, I'm going to fucking take it, you'll see, you little muppet. And it was just kind of like that, like, and that was the mindset I had on it more so than anything else. And then, obviously, because I didn't want him to box, because I genuinely believed that he was a better boxer than what he turned out to be. I thought I had to fight him. And then when I went back over and was sparring him and I was outboxing him at times, I was like, oh shit, why didn't I fucking try box you a little bit more? I thought he was a superior boxer and he couldn't fight. Where I was thinking, I'll just drag him into a bleeding war like I did with Deco. And that's the way I thought. So that's why I was trying to get under his skin a little bit, you know, and annoy him. But yeah, the little basket fight part, I thought.
I remember watching it. I remember seeing it, like I was like, this hatred is mental, like, and then I was like, next day you're in Instagram stories just rolling about Philadelphia, absolutely living the life.
Mate, that happened so random. I swear in my life, that happened so random. So all my family was staying in a hotel that was across from the hotel he was staying in, and I didn't know this. So the next day I went down. There's a lot of people. Obviously, I had to go to the hospital now because the fucking drug test fella kept making me drink loads of water for me to do my urine sample and stuff. But it was cold water he was giving me, and my body was I was roasting obviously after coming out from the fight, and because it was the last fight, he was rushing me. He kept fucking pouring the water down my throat. So anyway, I ended up vomiting because I had so much water in my system. And once you do that after a fight, it's some signs of concussion or some shit. But mine wasn't. Mine was just full of bleeding water and this muppet pouring the thing down my throat. Like, so I got sick, so they had to send me to the hospital. So I had to bleed and do scans and all this bleeding crap on me. So I didn't get to see any of my fans after the fight, any of the family and friends that flew over, you know. So the next morning, I was like, right, let's just go down and see all these, because they're all my friends and family, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm going to go down to the hotel. So I was seeing them all. And then one or two of my friends was like, here, there's a burrito stand down the road. Do you want to go? I was like, fuck, do it. Of course I do. I'm starving. Let's do it. Because I obviously couldn't eat hardly and the whole lead up to that fight. So we were walking down the road, and there was a Rolls Royce outside this hotel. And I said it, bet you anybody that's Farmer's fucking Rolls Royce. And the missus just goes, yo, Tevin. I don't even know why she done it, because she just goes, yo, Tevin. And whoever he was talking to moved out of the way, and it happened to be Tevin Farmer. And he goes, oh, yo, what up, Jono? He's like, come over. So he drove across the road, and he just goes, here, we're just going to go to get some Philly cheesesteaks. You want to come? I was like, fucking right, I do. Let's go. So we just jumped in, and that was that. You know what I mean? It was just a mad experience, because I'm just one of them. I love living life in little moments. You know what I mean? Appreciating those little moments. And if you just have, like, I don't care about fucking fighting, to be honest. Like, if you just have the balls just to go and just experience things, sometimes are the best experiences ever. You know, I realized that when I was in Australia, I lived with a lot of hippies and all at one stage, and it was just the best experience ever. So I just jumped in the car. I was like, yeah, fucking, and loads was jumping the car. And he had about seven cars behind him. All his mates and his fans were staying in the hotel too. So they thrown a load of my friends in the back of their car, and there was loads of us walked up to this little tiny shack in the hood, and it was like bleeding. Oh, mate, you want to see it? No one could have fit in the door. There was loads of us, and all the kids were walking up to us like, yo, are you guys famous? And all, like, there's obviously fucking Rolls Royce, and we're in Philadelphia in some little shithole, you know what I mean? It was mad.
Were they able to understand you? Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, see, the thing is, because me speaking to you, I might speak normal and a little bit fast, but when I'm speaking to, like, the Yanks or the Australians or even, like, my coach and stuff, I'm able to slow things down. My little time that I spent in Australia, I had to do that because, like, I remember speaking to people in Australia and I'm like, I love your accent, but I don't fucking have a clue what you're saying. I was like, shit, yeah. So I had to learn to slow things down, you know? So, it was all good. Oh, yeah. Me and Tevin got on good now, though. He's a nice fella.
What about then the next big fight you had, like, last year, obviously the Scott Quigg fight? We were all at the Frampton Quigg fight a few years back, and like the build up and stuff, that was unbelievable. Did you watch the sort of Frampton Quigg fight, the build up to your fight?
Yeah, of course. I loved all the build up for the Frampton Quigg fight as well. I was like watching that closely enough too, because at the time, like, Frampton obviously is just one of the biggest boxers that come out of Ireland, you know, still is to this day. So for me, I was always support my own and stuff. Oh, sorry, lads.
All right.
My bad.
Okay.
I always support my own, you know what I mean? So I was always supporting Frampton and stuff. And I loved the way they were all hating on Eddie Hearn, because I didn't like Eddie Hearn at the time either.
We all hated him, and now we've got a shrine to him at Brawl Boxing Studio. We all love him now.
Me and Eddie get on all right nowadays as well. He pays me good money, so me and him are all right. But so I was watching that fight closely, obviously, with the whole Frampton and Quigg, but it was just, I took care of him a little bit.
We had Frampton on. He was saying he was selling tickets out of his chippy in Bury. Was he doing the same for you?
I don't know. I doubt he woke up in his ma's house and walked to the bleeding.
He ended up working in the chippy. He ended up working in the chippy after that fight, Jono.
Did he?
Did you ever? But when you watched the
Frampton, he probably did. No, I think it's his ma's chippy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like a family chippy. But Frampton was saying that, like,
sorry,
oh, can you hear us? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, come on.
I know. Frampton was just saying that because he was struggling to sell tickets, like, Frampton was having to send his own fans from Belfast over to the chippy in Bury to buy tickets. Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me at all. Like, he's not that big of a ticket seller. I sold a lot of tickets even that night. Like, there was just as even his crowd as there was mine, and it wasn't even in my country. You know what I mean? It was mad.
You must have had a field day in the press conferences talking to the Quigg. Like, you must have roasted him.
Oh, mate, it was fun. But, like, you know what it was? I'm not even being smart when I say it was like taking candy from a baby. I started feeling bad for him sometimes. I was like trying to be nice to him at times and all, you know, give him his props and shit. And then, like, the same breath, I was like disrespecting him. It was just it was funny, mate. It is what it is. It was enjoyable. That's all I have to say.
Frampton was saying, like, now when he sees him, he'd, like, bump into him the all time at events, and, like, every time he bumps into him, Quigg, like, stirs him out for, like, a minute, and then Carl has to come up and be like, all right, Scott, and then, like, Quigg remembers that they're actually friends now, and Quigg will be like, oh, all right, and start chatting to him. But he says every time when he first sees him, he, like, stops and just stares at him.
Yeah, that's mad. Like, you won't be doing that to me. He got bashed off me. You won't be doing that to me. I'm like, look at that. You fucking all right there, mate.
Class.
So, Jono, do you want the Frampton fight? Is that something maybe you want in 2021? If he loses to Herring, you want that?
Yeah, I'd love to just share the ring with Frampton, to be honest. Like what I said, I was always a fan of Frampton, you know. I always watched them growing up. And I actually remember being an amateur, being like 18 or something. And I remember they needed sparring partners and they asked me to come up. Now, I don't know if he remembers. I remember because to me, it was like a big thing. They asked me to come up and I said I would. But it never happened. Long story short, it never actually happened. And I was fucking snapping. I was like, I would have loved him just to even spar him. You know what I mean? I was really excited as a kid just to spar the fella. So to be in there and share the ring with him, it'd be a dream come true. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. And I said it in the quick build up as well. It's like when your idols become your rivals, you know you're doing something fucking good. You know what I mean? It's a good thing. So.
Yeah, 100%. What about James Tennyson?
Yeah,
He's doing well
I'd
at the
love
minute.
to
Would you
fight.
fight him?
Yeah, I'd love to fight James Tennyson as well. I called James Tennyson out when he was at super feather, but he's at lightweight now, isn't he? So I can't see that really happening because he is a good ranking at lightweight. But when he was at super feather, I called him out a few times trying to like get a little bite. You know what I mean? He never bit. Like I was throwing out a few little things. I disrespected him when he turned down a world title fight. I said something on Twitter and I tagged him in it. I tagged a few people in it. I tagged his trainer and nothing. Never hear that back. And then I remember they asked him in an interview. And Mark Dunlop whispered in his ear, and then he just said, we're not really focused on that. We're trying to focus on this. And you know what? I actually respect James because he doesn't let his ego. I'm sometimes I can be a bit egotistical and let my ego take hold of me, and I'll say something on like just reaction. You know what I mean? I'm like, who the fuck's he think he is? And I'll say something smart back. Whereas James is not. He's a real cool, calm, collected, fucking stone cold killer. So like. I got a lot of respect for Tennyson, and I would have loved to share the ring with him. I did try to get the fight, but it didn't seem like it was happening. So it is what it is. But he's up at lightweight now. I wish him all the best for his career. Obviously, I hope he does well. He's another Irish man, and he's flying the flag. He's doing great. So fair play to him.
Jono, you touched on it there.
Before I just want to ask before the thing, fighting in Belfast or fighting in Dublin, where's better?
I only actually fought in Dublin one time, to be honest. Yeah, one time. And Belfast was just phenomenal. I fought in Belfast so many times, and I've had so many amazing experiences in Belfast. And the time that I fought in Dublin, so it was after the Matthew Macklin fight in the O2, and the TV and all that got cut. And it was me and Declan, and we went fucking hell for leather. I was getting bleeding, bottles thrown at me in the ring, chewing gums getting flung at me. I was like avoiding more things in the ring than what it was punches. Like it was bleeding ridiculous. So I'll go for the safety of Belfast. Dublin's a mad spot, like. But yeah, when I beat Deco, like you can see it in the build-up. I'm all celebrating and stuff. And then you see the very first thing I avoided the chewing gum, and I was like, messing. I was doing this. Someone chewing gum at me. I had to avoid that.
Disgusting.
A few minutes later, a bottle got flung at me while I was on the bleeding on the shoulders of Mark Kennedy. I was like, what the fuck? Get me out quick. Oh, it was mad. It was
Do you
mad.
reckon, do like your personality, do you think that's why like you've got so many like fans and followers now, Joe, like they want to see you fight? What's your plans for 2021? Because I'm sure like you're a big draw, especially for like Eddie Hearn as well. So I'm sure he'll have a few cards lined up for you.
Yeah, listen, I don't know about that. Me and Eddie, Eddie doesn't really like look after me. It's only like MDK look after me. Even when Eddie signed me for the fight with, so long story short, I got told I'd never be on Sky Sports again because it tattooed me back, and it was like Sky Sports and stuff like that, you know. So it is what it is. But I just told them to back off, and I went to water. So that is what it is. And then all of a sudden they came with a 3-fight deal to fight Farmer. So we was the setup. Obviously, we knew this is a close fight. I'm losing this fight, but we didn't care anyway. We were like, fuck it, it's a world title fight. Let's just go for it. We'll see what happens. And just see what like it is what it is, you know. Let's just we can stop him. That's what I was thinking. Either I need to stop him or throw everything in the kitchen sink. And once round 4 came, I was like, right, I ain't stopping him. Let's just go help a letter. That's why I just started punching like a bleeding madman. But so I don't think Eddie's really gonna like look after me unless I get myself back into contention of fighting for world titles. Which my next fight I'll be back in the top 15 then, and then I'll be in the big mix again. You know that way. So I do think my personality helps a lot. Just because I don't care, you know what I mean? I don't care. People are like, oh, you shouldn't curse as much. And I'm like, yeah, but fuck you. I don't get massive punches because I just don't care. And I don't care for all that sort of stuff. My boxing pays the bills. People love me for being me. I'm one of them people that people can relate to because I'm just a normal Joe. So, and like, boxing has never changed me and never will. It's just a job for me at the end of the day. It's something that I enjoy doing and it pays the bills. So happy days, you know what I mean? So
when are you going to fight next?
I'm fighting on the March 20th, just in Malaga, just to get out again. Because of all these restrictions and flying in and flying, all this rubbish, they're just trying to get me something here in Malaga. But 3 fighters had to turn the fight down already, so I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do, but that happens, and then I'm looking to be straight back out in June for a 50-50 fight, maybe America, maybe England, I don't know, but a big fight with someone in the top 15, and then please God, I'm in contention for a world title then first thing next year or coming to the end of 2021. But I'd say 2021 I'll fight for another world title for sure.
Unreal. Keep swearing, Jono. We want to hear you. We love hearing your interviews. We love, because you see people going on to like Sky Sports, where they're all media trained because it's Sky Sports, and it's like, you don't care, like, you don't give a fuck. You're just like, you're just you. And, like, that's why everyone loves McGregor as well, because he was the same when he was coming up. Like, he just said what he thought and was just like, I was talking to his mate, and that's why you are when you talk to the cameras, which I think everybody like loves.
Yeah, I remember when I first done an interview for Sky Sports and all, and my dad was like, just be the nice guy, be this, be that. And I was like, yeah, and I was taking his advice. And then when I was on the camera, I was like, fuck that. Like, why am I listening to other people? Like, because I listen to other people, and then all of a sudden you're a puppet. And then you're just like everyone else, just like a sheep, you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be the dog that's chasing the sheep in circles. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be the one that's having fun and enjoying myself rather than be in that herd, you know, that kind of way. So I'm just me. I don't care. Well, boxing is just a job at the end of the day, you know what I mean? As long as it's paying my bills, then happy days. I'll just keep fighting. But I don't think I'll get any media work after boxing. But it is what it is.
There's a space for a co-host on Brawl Boxing. We need a 4 so you can jump on if you need.
Yeah, I'll have to do something, mate, for sure. I'll have to heavily invest when I do that.
Brilliant, Jono. Thanks very much for coming on, by the way. We really appreciated that. It was some crack.
Yeah,
we always do in a class episode, like, so we were buzzing to get you on, so we really appreciate it.
Thanks a million for coming on, Jono.
I love doing things like this, you know what I mean? So thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing me with your followers and stuff. So yeah, I appreciate it, lads. I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm always free for interviews. So anytime you want one, just hit me up.
Yeah, we'd love to get you back on. Even get you back on before your next fight or whenever you fancy. That would be unreal.
Yeah. Anytime, mate. I don't care. Just hit me up. Just give me a little message now. You have me blade and me contact details. So just, well, you don't and you won't.
We're stalking you.
Hit me up on Instagram. And I'll get back to you, pal, for sure.
And before we go, the most important question for anyone listening out there who's dreaming of a career in boxing: how do you get your beard so good?
I don't know, but all I'm saying is, motherfucking Gillette, where is my sponsorship? That's all.
How do you get your hairline so good? That's what I want to know. I'm fucked.
No, you know what it is? My granddad he was like bleeding Elvis Presley with his hair. He always was combing it and loved his hair, he did. And he used to always say, "Yous are blessed, yous got a hairline like me." And I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't lying, was he? Oh, God rest his soul. But if you're looking at me right now, happy and proud where I am, what I'm doing today, you know. So with a beautiful beard.
And some nicers on you there. They must be veneers. No way they're real.
That's the Marbella smile, mate. You know what I mean? My teeth are in bits. My teeth are bow-jangled. I needed to get something good.
Thanks a million for coming on, John. I really appreciate your time, mate.
My pleasure, lads. And anyone wants a teeth on, get on to me. I'll get you 20% off.
Absolute legend. Cheers,
John. Thanks a million.
Legend, Jono.
See you later.
Have a good night. God bless.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Well, folks, that's it for another episode with the main man himself, Jono King Kong Carroll. What a character he is. We just want to thank, as always, our 2 American sponsors, so DraftKings and Manscaped. And if you're on the Manscaped website at manscaped.com, you can use our code BRAWL, and that gets you 20% off and free delivery. And we'll be back next week with another very special guest.
Got the rap patrol on the Gat patrol. Foes that want to make sure my